When you're told dress for the job you want, sometimes you maliciously comply. We'll get into that in a bit, but first, Florida HOA nightmare. Oh, certified mail for all communication? You got it. Posting this now because I no longer live in the house or neighborhood, but at the time I lived in a lovely cookie-cutter neighborhood with an HOA. This is one of those neighborhoods where they finished like 100 homes in the span of a few weeks, and it was common to see 8 or 10 moving trucks on any given weekend. The neighborhood went from ghost town to filled in literally a month. In Florida, most HOAs are required to use certified mail when notifying homeowners of violations. My HOA took this a step further that all notifications to the board would be through certified mail. Received a violation? Response in certified mail. Requesting a hearing? Certified mail. Want the bylaws? Certified mail. Now this last one might strike you as odd, because how would you know to request the bylaws by certified mail if you didn't have the bylaws already, you might ask. Let's put a pin in that one for now, because upon moving in, they were kind enough to provide the CC and Rs outlining what we could and could not do, but not the bylaws that told us how to handle violations and complaints. So I move in and everything is great, at first. That is, until about the 3rd month when there's a big packet taped to my door, a notice of intent to lien. The packet explains that I was delinquent on a number of violations, many of them repetitive. On the list are things like not keeping the garbage cans out of sight, we kept them on the side of the house like most neighbors, standing water in between the sides of the homes, grading issue I was fighting the developer over, parking one of the vehicles in the driveway but over the sidewalk line, bushes not trimmed appropriately, unapproved modifications to the doorway, installing a Ring doorbell camera. The list went on, but totaled to $4,032.12 for violations, late fees, and legal fees. I immediately email requesting more information and don't get a response. I do this for a few days before threatening legal action in an admittedly hostile email, to which I finally get a response indicating that all communications regarding violations will only be addressed via communication methods approved in the bylaws. I request a copy of the bylaws. All requests for the bylaws must be submitted via approved communication methods as per the bylaws. At this point, I'm about to go postal, but if Edmond Dantes can wait 14 years for revenge, I could take a breath and figure this out. The notice gave me 45 days, and it had only been a couple of days. I had time to figure this out. Little known fact about developers and HOAs in Florida: the developer is the one that drafts the initial CC&R, bylaws, and legal documents, and then hands it off to the board. My developer, whose name starts with D and ends with a word that sounds like schmorten, was already on my crap list for a number of issues, including the improper grading. When I emailed my contacts requesting a copy of the bylaws, I don't think they wanted to add to the growing list of crap I was vehemently emailing them about already, and I had a copy within minutes. That's when I found the certified mail language. Now the wheels were turning, because it stated all communication was to be by certified mail. Each violation was to be filed separately and delivered by certified mail, each notice of failure to cure and the late fee, certified mail. Everything. I had 8 unique violations, plus repeat violations over a period of 9 weeks. At a minimum, I should have received like 22 notices via certified mail at around $7 a pop. Cue malicious compliance. My revenge, malicious compliance, was two-pronged. My morality has developed to a fashion that if you want to wrongfully take from me, I'm willing to spend just as much as you want to fight you. They wanted $4,000 from me. I was willing to spend a good amount of that just to freak with them. I took 2 days off from work and prepared a little game of freak around and find out. So step 1 was to draft a single page, no personal details, but explaining my situation and warning any neighbors going through something similar what the bylaws indicated and that all homeowners should immediately request a copy of the bylaws via certified mail. I provided the board address, the language to include, which stipulated that the response from the board, even if it was a copy of the bylaws, was to be by certified mail. meaning a printed copy of the bylaws, which was 29 pages. I also encouraged anyone fighting infractions or having received a notice of intent to lien what to do. I printed about 150 copies because that's how many houses were in the neighborhood, roped in a few close neighbors, and we stuck a notice on about every door. Step 2 was to fight each violation individually. I drafted a template language indicating that I was refuting each violation. Some more boilerplate language on why it was refuting it, and the coup de grace, a final addendum formally requesting copy of receipt of delivery for each notice having been delivered via certified mail as per the bylaws. I customized each one specific to the violation and copied in any specific language from the CC&R that proved I was not in violation and sent 23 certified letters. 22 for violations, and an extra one that was a notice of contest for the lien. Here's another little tidbit about Florida law. HOAs operate under something called rebuttable presumption, meaning any request for official records had to be responded to within 10 business days. I sent the letters on a Thursday, and each letter included a request for official records, a copy of the record of delivery. They had 2 weeks. About a week and a half later, I got a very strongly worded email basically saying all of the violations were valid and that I had another 25 days to comply or they would pursue the lien. I responded tersely, "All communications regarding violations must be done in approved communication methods as per Article 9, communication methods as per the bylaws." They had a few days to draft a response and include the records I requested and mail them to me certified and individually as per the bylaws. They never did, so I sent 23 more follow-ups indicating that they had violated the Florida Homeowners Association Act, breach of the bylaws, and intended to pursue legal action if they did not cease and desist. I wish I could tell you I know what happened to them during that time frame or what it was like for them, but we heard from a man married to one of the board members that something like 100 of the homes requested a copy of the bylaws via certified mail, on top of the fact that they had active liens on several homes for violations, as well as 20 more homes that had been issued a notice of intent to lien. Everyone was now fighting them via certified freaking mail. In the end, the HOA had a change of members that resulted from the legal fees and expenses incurred by having to respond to each violation via certified mail, drying up the reserve. Turns out that the board hadn't sent a single notice of violation via certified mail, and in most cases, had never notified the homeowners at all, and assumed the threat of a lien would just get them to pay whatever fines there were. Why were they doing this, you might ask? Simple. There was an undeveloped lot of land at the front of the neighborhood facing a main road in front of the homes of the first people to move into the neighborhood, coincidentally where most of the board lived. The developer had held onto the plot and was intending to sell it to a commercial developer, but had offered to sell it to the neighborhood at a premium. These scumbags didn't want a gas station going up in front of their homes and were racking up violation fees from their freaking neighbors to afford the purchase through the HOA. The lien on my home never materialized, and while I never admitted it was me, word must have gotten around, because within 2 weeks, the developer, who had been dragging their feet for months on my complaints, did everything. My entire house was regraded on both sides, with French drains put in for added measure, the sides were completely resodded, and everything else taken care of. I only stayed there for like 8 months total before an offer came in that made me give the finger to short-term capital gains and peace out. All in all, I sent 46 certified letters. I think I spent like $350 in 2 days of PTO. Best money I ever freaking spent. I admire this level of petty, but did OP not get kind of bought out there at the end? I mean, I guess realistically OP already planted the idea and the damage was done at that point, but it kind of all ended and the pressure from OP disappeared when their house got fixed up and the lien went away. I don't know, I guess more importantly, the board members changed. Phelan A commented, "I have a friend whose hobby is fighting her HOA through state law. I'm grateful that both neighbors and my current HOA board are chill and actually useful, but finding out who the local anti-HOA experts are is so useful. Good job fighting the good fight. and everything I've heard about Florida makes me wonder why anyone lives there. Ephemeral Comments commented, "The best way to fight an HOA is by getting on the board. Since I've been the president, there have been 0 fines dished out for stupid crap. One friendly worded letter went out to a homeowner who left a full-sized sectional on his front lawn for 6 months. I thought it would be reasonable to ask them to take care of that one." Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy crazy stories of malicious compliance, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? Our next story is, manager says I must chat in the group chat, so I do, in every language but English. So I've been working remotely for almost 6 years now, but I recently joined a new company with a new team leader. I could tell right away that this guy was freshly promoted. You know that vibe when someone's trying a little too hard to flex authority? Yeah, that. My job is to talk with clients. That's it. My team leader isn't even looped into those conversations, so honestly, I barely have any reason to chat with him day to day. Naturally, I don't really hop into the team group chat unless it's work-related or someone tags me directly. Fast forward to my 3rd monthly review, all my KPIs were perfect. However, my team lead docked my score because I wasn't engaging enough in the team chat. Apparently saying good morning and joining in on non-work chatter was required to show team spirit. I pointed out that it's not in the metrics, never has been, and in 6 years of remote work, I've never once been penalized for not spamming greetings into a chat box. His response? As long as you're on my team, you need to chat, even just a hello or goodbye. Cue malicious compliance. Every morning I started posting good morning and every evening goodbye, but in a different language every day. Monday, Korean, Tuesday, Spanish, Wednesday, Greek. You get the idea. At first, my lead thought it was funny. Then the rest of the team joined in, but they were all using Google Translate and, well, let's just say a lot got lost in translation. Some sentences even got flagged by our system, and eventually the general manager, his boss, had to ask what on earth was happening. Suddenly, my team leader wasn't laughing anymore. He DM'd me saying, "Please just greet in English from now on." Then he threatened that if I didn't stop, he would report me to the GM. So far, I'm 3 weeks in. Still greeting the team in whatever language I feel like. Still waiting for that GM call. I find it kind of funny that OP kind of cemented themselves as that person that somebody has to just be like, oh, you know, that's just their thing. They talk in different languages sometimes. Just ignore it. You know, just say good morning to them and move on. Electronic Age 3671 commented, "Reminds me of a coworker who got tired of saying bless you to people when they sneeze, so he started using phrases from around the world. Turns out there's a lot of funny idioms people use in other places. One roughly translates to go away kitten, and another, I think Mongolia, said may Tenkri grant you 500 horses. This wasn't a malicious compliance thing, just for fun. Everyone in the office started saying increasingly ridiculous things to each other whenever someone sneezed. That was a fun office. Our next story is, don't worry, I won't mow your weeds again. For most of the summer, I have a rough cut mower behind my little tractor. Not the biggest thing, but perfect for mowing tall brush and weeds in tight areas. For years, whenever the state mowed their part, I would jump on my tractor and mow that tall section so it all blended in. Never mentioned it to my dad because it only took about 5 minutes to mow. Not an issue. The key part of this story is my mower throws clippings out of the back, but also to the right a bit. Typically, I would go so the clippings went towards the road. One day, about 4 years ago, I wasn't thinking and went the other direction. It wasn't too bad, just got some grass clippings in his grass. Figured the next time he mowed, he would just run through it with his lawnmower and shred the clippings and blow it towards the road and it would all be over. Boy, was I wrong. My wife saw it all. He drove past, stopped, got out of the truck to look at the damage, went home, changed into work clothes, and came back with a lawn rake. Mind you, we're just talking about grass clippings in the grass. It's not like I left it looking like a hay field. Nothing that I wouldn't run back over with my lawnmower and shred. He came inside screaming and cussing at me for making a mess. He said, "You know that grass is my pride and joy," and told me I had no business cutting his grass because the state cuts it anyway, so why would you cut it? Apparently, he never realized that I was the one that cut it after the state did their section. I told him not to worry about it. It won't happen again. I told him not to worry about it, it won't happen again. He told me that if I really wanted to cut it, just rake up when I'm done. I said no, it won't happen again. That was 4 years ago. That grass hasn't been cut since. Now, whenever the state mows, it looks horrible. He's too stubborn to ask me to mow it, and I'm dang sure not going to take it upon myself to mess up his pride and joy. You know, I think the important thing is, can OP live with it? If OP can get by with it, except that they just have really tall grass out there, and it doesn't like upset them or stress them out every time they see it, then by all means be as petty as you want with this malicious compliance. Comprehensive Tap 4353 commented, "That is a whole level of petty stubbornness I'm glad I never have to deal with again. My dad was the same way when I was younger, asked me to trim down the yard, but if it wasn't done to his specs, oh man. Finally, he had enough of chewing me out for not doing it right, so he took over and did it himself. Didn't matter how tall or how tough it got, never asked for my help again. Thinking back, it was always something new about the yard too. Mower not set high or low enough, edges not trimmed, edging not done deep enough, etc., etc." Our next story is, okay, fine, I'll just sit here. If you've read my last few posts in the subreddit, they all seem to deal with truck driving. This one is shorter but no different. I mainly drove central and eastern Pennsylvania, southern New York, New Jersey, Delaware, northeast Maryland, and sometimes eastern Ohio and southern Connecticut and Virginia. Unfortunately, that region puts me in several cities, Philadelphia, Wilmington, New York, Richmond, and Baltimore, as well as slightly smaller cities like Harrisburg, Trenton, Dover, Newark, and everything in between. The thing to realize as a driver in the city is people hate or don't care about trucks. In their mind, we are just a large, slow-moving annoyance, and something to get around so they can get their latte and go about their day. They don't realize the danger of cutting off trucks or stopping short in front of one at speed, or that I can't always see you while driving or backing. So as a truck driver, you are always on alert for danger. Initially, I hated driving in the cities, but eventually got used to it. I would be backing up slowly to enter or exit an alley, and people would pull up and park directly behind me, or walk directly behind the truck. You learn to judge each situation on a case-by-case basis. Usually your best case scenario is to keep going slow until you're 100% sure you're going to hit something, then stop if absolutely necessary. Case in point, I'm loaded with roofing materials for a commercial roofing job. I'm driving our largest truck in the fleet, a twin-stick Mack with a 42-foot boom crane. This thing was big. It had wide flotation tires on the front axle. If you don't know what they are, they're generally twice the width and diameter of regular truck tires and tend to float on a dirt surface rather than sink in like a normal tire would due to the extra large footprint. The upside is they were able to support much more weight without sinking in the ground. The downside is turning radius. This truck was 20 feet shorter than an 18-wheeler with a 53-foot trailer, but had the same turning radius. So, this one day in 1997, I'm headed to a delivery just outside of Philadelphia, Upper Darby to be exact. I'm at a high-traffic signaled intersection traveling south, and I have to turn right to head east. Each corner had 2 straight-through/right turn lanes, one in each direction, and a dedicated left turn lane signaled. As normal, I approach the red light, stopping about 50 feet short of the light. Once the left turn lane clears, I can then swing left before turning right. This is the proper way to make a turn of this nature. A lot of times I see trucks turn right from the left turn lane, and that's illegal and wrong because it allows traffic to come up on your right side. The proper way is to approach in the right lane, swing wide left when clear, then turn right. However, I notice as I'm waiting for the lights to do their thing and my opportunity to make my turn, this lady pulls well over the white line of the left turn lane on the east side of the intersection. So as traffic clears and I make the turn, I cannot complete it because she's too far forward in her lane. So I have to stop mid-turn. For those unaware, at major intersections, there's a thick white line painted across the intersection defining where you're supposed to stop if the light is red. This allows trucks and emergency equipment to make the turn as needed. This helps keep traffic flowing. Now back to the story. I signaled to the lady to back up so I can complete the turn, and she signals back no. She's the only car there, no one behind her. I signal again, and she furiously signals no. Malicious compliance initiated. I put the truck in neutral, set the brakes, shut the engine off, and just sit there. Traffic in the north and southbound lanes are squeezing behind the truck. Eastbound can only turn right, and no other traffic can move. She can't move. I can't move. I'm paid by the hour. She is not. A few light cycles go by, and traffic is completely jammed. Of course, the police were called. I could tell by the cop's demeanor that it was reported that a truck was blocking the intersection, because the first thing he did when he got there was to order me to back up. Here's the rub. As a truck driver, if I back up and hit anything, I am liable no matter the circumstance, even with someone guiding me. Hence, a police officer cannot legally tell me to back up, so I tell him no. He then tucks tail and orders the lady to back up, and she argues with the cop. I couldn't hear what was said, but I imagine the word ticket was involved, which she qualified for disobeying traffic control devices. Finally, she backs up as I start the truck up again and complete my turn in the allotted space. I never saw her or the cop again and laughed for a few miles as I headed to the job. I don't know if she ever got a ticket, but just another day driving a truck that made me smile. You know, I never realized that there was a general trucker racism. Okay, well, I probably could have picked a better phrase for that. It kind of sounds like I'm saying all truckers are racist or something. What I'm trying to say is I never really thought about how there's this general hatred towards trucks and this assumption that the trucker would be at fault here. I mean, it makes sense though. I mean, if anything, they're just a bigger, slower target. I mean, if somebody in the crowd is calling the police, they're probably not going to say, oh, this Karen in a Mercury Sable is blocking the turn lane. They're probably going to point out the truck. Still note LF commented, oh, the thick white line. There's an inducement, a little treat, a motivation to obey that thick white line. It also marks the sensors for sensor-triggered lights. Many times I've seen dang fools entirely pass the white line, wondering why the light's taking so long to turn. The light whose sensor they failed to stop on because they ignored the thick white line. Our next story is, my manager told me cut my hair, so I became bald. The industry I work in requires people to keep short hair. A month ago, my manager changed, and the new manager seems to want to prove that he's doing something, so he asked me to cut my hair short, which even the CEO was okay with, as I've been working with the company for a long time, and I would get regular haircuts as well. So I became bald. You should have seen the look on my manager's face. My teammates seem to keep a social distance from me for some reason. The CEO hasn't talked to me since a month, even though we used to talk every second day. And I don't even have to attend daily meetings for some reason too. I bet he won't tell anyone to cut their hair again. I know it sounds bad, but I wonder if it's the assumption. I'm assuming OP had some kind of hairstyle that was maybe just longer for men or something that was just weird enough that somebody who doesn't give a crap about being polite would say, cut your hair. So to come into work the next day completely bald, I mean, what does the little voice in the back of your head say if you saw somebody do that? You know, am I working with somebody who's going through what Walter White went through? And I'm not talking about the kingpin side of things. Still note LF commented, if the CEO used to like you and now won't talk to you, you no longer have a good future at this job. Sorry. Our next story is, boss said, dress for the job you want, so I started wearing a CEO costume to my retail job. I work at a mid-tier clothing store, and our district manager came through last month giving us the usual corporate pep talk. During the meeting, she kept emphasizing how we should dress for the job you want, not the job you have, and think like leaders. Now, our dress code is pretty relaxed. Basically just look professional and wear something from our store. Most of us wear jeans and a nice top or sweater from our inventory. I decided to take her advice literally. Started showing up in full business formal tailored suits, thrifted because retail wages, dress shirts, ties, the works. I even bought a cheap briefcase that I carry around the store, which I got from a cash out on Grizzly's Quest. At first, customers started assuming I was the manager and would come to me with complaints and returns. I would politely redirect them, but it was happening constantly. My actual manager seemed confused but couldn't really say anything since I was following dress code and the DM's advice. The best part was when the DM came back for her monthly visit. She saw me restocking shelves in my full suit and tie, briefcase sitting nearby, and just stared for like 10 seconds. She asked my manager about it and he just shrugged and said, "She's dressing for the job she wants." Now, half my coworkers have started wearing more formal clothes too, and our store apparently has the most professional looking team in the district. The district manager hasn't mentioned the dress code since. I mean, the revenge is kind of fun, but in the end, did you not almost sort of replace the dress code with dress up in some uncomfortable suit and tie getup? Like, I feel like it's a, yeah, I'm sticking it to the man, I'm dressing to impress and whatnot, but you kind of played yourself and now you're dressing up really nicely to your mid-tier clothing store retail wage job. Pac Radis commented, "My buddy one day felt like wearing a nice shirt and tie to work. The managers panicked because they thought he was dressed up for an interview somewhere else. They ended up giving him a sizable raise to make sure he stayed." Matt Kenny replied commenting, "I've been wearing high-vis shirts for years, since I'm often going out into the factory and was always forgetting to put on a high-vis jacket. My boss was very concerned when I turned up in a dress shirt one day and thought I had an early interview. I let him stew on it for a while before telling him it was just a meeting at my child's school, and my last high-vis shirt had too much grease staining on it." Our next story is Zero OT? You got it. Years ago, I worked in a meatpacking plant as a supervisor. It had its ups and downs, but overall, it was good until a new production manager was hired. We'll call him Bob. Bob didn't come from the floor or even leadership. He had an engineering background. Whatever, I'll try to keep an open mind. Well, my mind was only open for 4.5 minutes. First day, first time meeting, he declares he's going to right the ship. Sure thing, boss. Right that ship that's already sailing in the right direction. He declares that going forward, there will be no more overtime. He states that we're peeing away money with the amount of overtime we pay. I asked for clarification. What about vacation coverage, sick calls, etc.? He replies, no overtime, no exceptions. Sure thing, boss man. Now, I should point out the department we work in is massive. My direct team at that time was 70 people. There were other rooms that other supervisors looked after for a total of 220-ish employees. Now, I'm assuming all of you reading this are infinitely smarter than Bob and have figured out that with a team that size, we don't just get one sick call. We averaged 7 per day. Vacations? 10% of our workforce was our cutoff. Usually we hovered at 12 people a day, not to mention leaves of absence, people leaving early, etc. So on Friday, I went to Bob one last time. I let him know that we're going to be short 19 people next week and asked once more for him to approve overtime. I got a flat no in response. I considered going above him, but I figured letting the guy drown would be better. I didn't ask for overtime. Employees were coming up to me saying, "Boss, are you sure there's no overtime next week?" Yes, I'm sure Bob wants it that way. Come next week, 2 production lines aren't running. Bob comes to me upset, demanding to know why 2 of the lines aren't running. Is it mechanical downtime? No, Bob. I have no one to run the line. He stammers something about staffing appropriately and having better planning. I asked you multiple times to approve overtime. You said no each time. I was just following your direction. Cue the angry storm off with him yelling, "Get some freaking people in here." Anyways, I then have to call people at home and schedule overtime for the rest of the week because Bob sunk our ship instead of riding it. I couldn't staff those 2 lines that day. For those wondering, not running those 2 lines that day lost the company $120,000. No, I'm not exaggerating. Bob gets a strip torn off of him by his boss, a guy I've known at that time for 10 years. He came and spoke to me about it outside. We both smoke and said, "What the freak was he thinking? I thought engineers were supposed to be smart." I choked on my cigarette laughing. Bob lasted about 3 months. What is it with people who kind of fall into a manager position and walk in with this great assumption that the ship is sinking and that they have to take some drastic new measure to right the ship? Like, this isn't the army calling in the Bob reinforcements. Please, Bob, save our sinking ship in the manager position. Change everything we've got going on. Like, I don't know, I guess I get it. You come in, you're the new manager, you want to be able to prove right away that you have some like hard data points that show, yeah, I came in and immediately we started saving so much money here. Next thing you know, oops, you accidentally cut funding that was preventing Ebola. Hamilton Panda commented, "Not that I think I'll ever be management, but the one thing I've learned from all the new manager/MC stories is that you never change things until you've worked there for a long while, and always listen to the people who repeatedly ask if you're sure." Digital Stefan commented, "This isn't just management tactic. Joining any team is a newbie. It doesn't matter if you're the subject matter expert in the role you've been hired for. You keep your dang mouth shut for at least the first month, and you make sure everyone knows you're there to support and help them. I wait until month 3 before I even think about trying to change things. I'm one opinionated little cookie, but I'm smart enough to know when to keep quiet." The worst thing you can begin a sentence with as a newbie is, "At my last place, we did." Nobody gives a dang about your last place. I've seen newbies come in and use that exact phrase. They didn't last. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy malicious compliance story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.